Okay, why don't you start out by giving us a little history, setting up how we got to the water quality management plan stage?
Sure, Joe. The first sentence in the United States was created in 1790 and had the population of the United States at about 4 million. Going ahead towards 1900s, the population of the United States increased almost 20-fold up to 76 million. During this time, the Industrial Revolution was occurring in the United States, and we're going from hand tools and automation, the first factories, extensive use of steam for power and using the rivers to navigate and for power as well. You had your creation of your first factories, your creating of chemicals, a lot of industrial processes during this, which created the huge explosion of population during this time. Our rivers and lakes became heavily used. They became basically open sewers. The garbage went there. They were overwhelmed with sewage and feces were going untreated to the rivers. It was quite a mess. The first congressional law was passed in 1899. The Rivers and Harbors Act was passed, and it prohibited the throwing of garbage in the river, but it still allowed the discharge of untreated sewage to the rivers. The early vintages of sewers were actually just to get the untreated sewage to the river quicker and get it out of the neighborhoods. So it was quite a mess. There was an outbreak of, I think, typhoid in the city of Salem that led to our first sanitations, our first water plants and sewage plants. The rivers were our workhorse, and all of a sudden, the fires were occurring. Our Cleveland was our leading oil refinery in the nation at that time, and you had BP and Rockefeller having their headquarters in downtown Cleveland, and there were spills in oil, and to my still to this day astonishment, the oil spills on the river led to over 5 fires on the Cuyahoga River that were documented. And the year I graduated high school was the 5th and final fire in 1969, and led to marching on Washington, and passage of the Clean Water Act was a symbol from Northeast Ohio. So when the Clean Water Act was passed, it led to our first system of permitting discharges to the nation's waters. It set up a system of water quality standards for all the pollutants to clean up our rivers. And a very important step, they had an influx of federal funding. 75% construction grants program was created. And under this grants program, about $3.4 million were allocated over the period from 72 to 1990 for infrastructure to clean up our rivers. In the construction grants program, 75% funding was allocated for step 1, facilities planning, step 2, design, and step 3, construction grants dollars. So Congress realized, or after they created the US EPA, they determined that regional planning was a key and very important factor to make sure that these dollars allocated were used in a cost-effective manner,